Welcome to Hockey Night in New York, where Islanders hockey always reigns supreme. Whether you were raised at the barn in Uniondale or born in the stable at Belmont, Hockey Night in New York is your home for all things Isles. Now, let's drop the puck and get this party started.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is Hockey Night in New York. Welcome to the program, everyone. It is Sunday, December 3rd, 2023. Coming at you live from Florida Media here in Rockville Center. Another fantabulous episode coming up for you tonight. Stefen Rosner with me, as always, over here. We got Ethan Sears of the New York Post joining us a little bit later. My name is Sean Cuthbert. Welcome to the program. Stefen Rosner, how you doing tonight, bud?
I feel terrible.
Terrible?
Yeah, it's been a tough weather change. Always messes with my sinuses. As you can tell, I sound congested as you know what, but we power through.
We power through. Yes, we do. Welcome to the program, an early edition here of Hockey Night in New York, a 7 p.m. start. And want to start by thanking all of our wonderful sponsors with Blue Line Deli and Bagels. Satisfy your hunger at 719 West Jericho Turnpike in Huntington and 217 Carlton Avenue in East Islip. Remember to check them out at BlueLineDeli.com to check out the menu and order online. Also proud to be sponsored by Main Street Board Game Cafe. Find your crowd and unplug your game at 307 Main Street in Huntington Village. Also proud to be sponsored by Razor and Kniff Attorneys at Law. Ready to fight for you. Check out razorandkniff.com, RAISERANDKENNIFF.com for a free consultation. So once again, without the pleasantries out of the way, Stefen, just as we wrote it up last week, the Islanders are in a playoff spot. Somehow the second wild card, let's see here, they're 10-7-6 with 26 points. They're, two back of, I think, the third spot. They're close to the second spot. They're two back of the first wild card spot. They're in the playoff mix. They're in there after a 2-1 record, heading down the East Coast. And wouldn't you know it, here they are. After all the talk about Lane Lambert getting fired and the blown leads, somehow they find themselves in a playoff spot in December.
Yeah, all these stats make no sense. Right?
Zero.
They make zero sense, which is why the game is played. No, the stats don't matter, but I think you saw improvements, maybe I guess you want to call them, in each game they played. They played Jersey, blow it late, don't get any points. Carolina, blow it late, get a point. Florida, hold the lead, win. So I think that's, baby steps.
Yeah, I guess so, and that's kind of what we should discuss, right? Like, really, it's only 3 games. We see an improvement. They played 3 strong teams, or teams that are supposed to be strong this year, which is, I guess, encouraging. And I guess at the end of this, you have to just wonder, how is everybody supposed to feel after this week? You know what I mean? Like you blew another 2-goal lead against the Devils. They don't even get the point in that one.
Yeah,
right?
That was bad.
25 or so seconds away from closing that one out, or getting to overtime in that one, because they had already given up the tying goal around like the 10-minute mark of the third period. Yeah. But they're about 25 seconds away from getting another point, maybe getting the second one in overtime. They squander that one, and wouldn't you know it, it looks like they're finally going to do it against the Carolina Hurricanes. And it was like Groundhog Day, where, nope, you couldn't get to the end of regulation without the Islanders giving up another tying goal. They do. And, you thought, I thought, I was like, well, this one's going to be a loss too. There's no way they're taking this in overtime in the shootout, because that just had to take any win that they might have had in their sails just completely gone. But somehow they end up having a nice little overtime there. Matt Barzal gets the game-winning goal. And then, wouldn't you know it, going to Florida, and they actually win in regulation. They hang on to the lead.
Yeah, I think Florida was their most impressive win because Matthew Barzal didn't play. And he was on an absolute bender those first 2 games of the road trip.
Right.
He doesn't play. And then also you lose Brock Nelson for the final 5 minutes of the second period. So you saw a lot of players step up. We'll get to it. But Gauthier with his first goal as an Islander. Yep. Holmstrom sets a new career high with 7 goals. Engvall scores a goal. Anders Lee on the power play, that was him being on the top power play unit because Barzal wasn't there. So he was playing on that unit as well. So you saw a lot of players step up. And I think I said it on Twitter, but the good teams get that depth scoring. Good teams find a way to get depth scoring because the best of the best get shut down. So Islanders needed that against a strong Panthers team who did go with their backup, which was a little questionable because they had a couple of days off. I don't think they played till Wednesday. Stolarz has been pretty good this year, but he wasn't sharp, and the Islanders take advantage.
Yeah, you get JGP also getting his first goal against the Devils, so a lot of secondary scoring. We're gonna get into that a little bit, but yeah, I mean, it's funny now because after the dust settled on this week, you have, everybody on Islanders Twitter, myself included, posting all of these interesting stats. Eric Horn, everybody's out there, and all of a sudden it's like, yeah, they're 5-1-4 in their last 10, which on paper, ain't bad. That's a pretty damn good record. They were almost unbeaten in regulation, if not for the Devil game, right? So it kind of spins the narrative just a bit where, if they continue to win games like the ones they did this past week, then all of a sudden, and I kind of, hinted at this last week, where maybe those games earlier on in the season, don't look so bad where they blew those leads because they still got points from those games. And I guess what I was going to say to you was, like, would we have looked at those games in a better light if they were trailing in those games and they caught up and earned those, loser points? You know what I mean? So it's like, it's all perspective, right? So is it better that they came out to better starts, they had the leads, they couldn't hang on to them, versus if they came out slow, which we were more used to last season, and maybe clawing back to get a point against Jersey earlier in the season, against Carolina, instead of giving up a 3-goal lead, right? But they're still getting, the one thing is they're getting the goals against these teams, right? They're putting up 3-4 goals against a lot of the good teams. Even Colorado, they put up 4, even though they lost 7-4 after an empty netter or two. But they are putting up goals against these teams, but they're just not able to prevent enough, at least in the earlier going, to get wins out of these games.
Well, that's the thing with Sorokin, is everybody wants to hound, again, stats. You could use any stats to really back it up. You just gave their stats over their last 10 games. They're 5-1-1 over the last 7. So you just, mix and match stats. But with Sorokin, they're finally giving Sorokin the goal support. But they're not helping him out enough defensively for those goals to matter. So that's why, like, again, he has like an over 3 goals against average, but his save percentage is 9-13 or whatever it is. And that, it's kind of crazy how that happens. Everyone's saying, oh, Sorokin's not taking advantage of the goal support. But again, the Islanders aren't helping him at all. They're just scoring a little more.
Yeah, and there was a couple of games where they did give him some goal support, and you might have said there was 1 or 2 where Sorokin could have held on to it and maybe helped them out with the win. But I think Sorokin's been doing more of the heavy lifting than the squad in front of him. But yeah, 5-1-1. I said it on Twitter after Eric Horner put it out there. I was like, that has to be the most uncomfortable 5-1-1 run in Islanders history, because I mean they literally had to sweat out all of those wins. Like, starting with the win against Calgary, right? Another game where they blew a lead and they had to squeeze out a shootout win. Right,
they blew a lead twice.
Right, exactly. So it just, like, is this just going to be heart attack special from here on out till 82 games are over, or is it going to be a little more reflective of the Florida game where they actually were able to hang on to the lead, close the game out in regulation? Not to say there weren't moments of nerves, because it was still tight and everybody was still waiting for that tying goal to come before it was over, but they did a good job of clamping it down. And I guess, are they really turning a corner here, or is it just going to, or like, were these the games that kind of go against the norm? You know what I mean? That's what we got to find out now, right? Are they turning a corner? They heading towards better play? Or did they kind of just find, a little magic in a bottle, I guess you would call it, getting a couple of wins here, a couple of points from these teams, but then you look at the shot totals, 43, they put up, they let up against Carolina. They left 45 last night against Florida. That one didn't even get to overtime. So I'm just not sure, when it's going to be okay to feel good about this. How much more of this do we have to see before you can be like, okay, I guess this is who this Islander team is. Yeah,
and I thought the Carolina game where they got that was like their first game they played a really good team and got flat out dominated. The other games we talked about it last week where they were in it enough where you could say, oh, they could hang with them. Against Carolina, it looked like they were playing in a different team in a different league.
Yeah, wouldn't you know it? Like, that's the game that they finally beat a good team. It makes no sense. They barely showed up for the second period. I don't think they got their first shot on goal until
we could talk about that.
5.5 was to go, and that was a goal. That was
Holmstrom's shorthanded goal was their first shot of the period.
Right.
Engvall's goal was their first 5-on-5 shot of the period. It was, again, stats don't make sense. No. I thought maybe getting a win out of that would have not woken the group up and been a game to build on. But the Panthers one, I think, with Barzal being out last second, and Gauthier coming in and having the game he had, Holmstrom, all those guys we talked about, that's one of those games where that could get a group going. You thought maybe after Calgary, that was the same thing where they just find a way to snap the streak and turn the page.
Right.
You got to see them win a couple of games where they hold leads. Like the Panthers game, they hold leads. And I want to get to a quote from Noah Dobson. After the game, I asked him about the guy stepping up in Barzal's absence. He gave a fantastic quote.
I thought they were great. Goat, I think he came up, played with Horvat and Lee for most of the night. But he's an animal. He's he's tough to handle, and he's moving. He's a big body. And then Homer, he's just continues to each game get better and better, score big goals for us. So it's nice to see those guys contribute to a big win.
And the penalty kill, by the way, too, has been a lot better than it was on that losing skid. Not saying they haven't allowed goals, but they've been much sharper in what they do. Sorokin also has to be a big part of that. Last night, I think you saw something different with Sorokin, whereas in other games, maybe he's over pushing or trying to cheat a little bit. But when he was sliding to make saves, he wasn't over sliding. He was catching the puck. The rebound control wasn't amazing in that game. He did get a lot of help, I think, in front of him and just clearing the zone and stuff like that. But he looked a lot more confident. Again, I think over maybe his 3 of his last 4 starts, he's kind of looked like the guy from last year, and that's huge for this team.
Butch was noting on the broadcast that he was coming out of his crease and challenging more, so he looked a little more himself, a little more confident. You mentioned the penalty kill. They killed 8 of 9 over the course of these 3 games, which is obviously good to see. And wouldn't you know it, the power play had a goal in all 3 games. So the power, I mean, I guess now, 23-ish, 20, whatever it is, 26 games into the season, I mean, you kind of just got to admit they have a good power play at this point, right?
Yeah, and again, I think it's more important
size now.
When guys are gone. Like Anders Lee scoring his power play goal. Again, he hasn't been on the top unit. You could say he stepped up, but I mean, he's in front of goal and did what he did his job. And I think that's what you're seeing too in the power play is they're not really doing what they were doing where they overpassing too much. They're getting the shots. I mean, you saw last night, not at the power play, just 5-on-5 play. Romanov's shot produces a rebound for Engvall. Gaudier's shot produces a rebound for Holmstrom. They're not pretty goals. But you don't have to score pretty goals. This is not a team that has this 4 or 5 elite guys that are going to come down the wing and snipe. You're going to have to go hard to the net, which is something I thought they weren't doing enough of during their skid, and you get the greasy goals, and that's what you have to do. That's how you're going to have to do it, especially when you don't have the elite talent that some of these other teams have.
Yeah, for sure. And before we break for Ethan Sears, I'll just rattle off some stats here. The power play is now at a 23.4% clip. That's good for 9th overall going into today. Penalty kill, 72.6%, tied for 30th overall, so they still have a lot of ground to make up if they want to climb up those standings. But folks, I want to thank you all for tuning into this early edition of Hockey Night New York. Thank you for tuning into twitch.tv/HockeyNightNY. We're going to take a break. On the other side, Ethan Sears of the New York Post will join us.
I don't want to hear it. It's over. I can't believe they fell short again.
Yeah, but they played so well. They made it to the semifinals 2 years in a row.
The semifinals aren't the cup. God damn it! I hate those Lightning.
They'll get another shot at it next year.
I don't even want to talk about it anymore, all right? They lost, okay? Let me just sit here and enjoy the one thing that makes me a little bit happy. This fresh, delicious, tasty, meaty, turkey-filled Blue Line combo. I eat 3 every day to help keep me strong.
Hey, Donnie, can I have one of those?
Coming right up. Talk about a blast from the Blue Line.
Blue Line Deli and Bagels. Our goal is to make you a hero.
Thanks for giving some time to our sponsors. Ready to talk more Isles? The train rolls on right here on Hockey Night in New York.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. The train rolls on here at Hockey Night in New York. And joining us from the New York Post is Mr. Ethan Sears. Ethan, welcome back to the program. How you been, bud?
I'm great. Thanks so much for having me, guys.
Absolutely. So before you came on, Stefen and I were talking about this 2-1 road trip down the East Coast for the New York Islanders. They beat a couple of good teams in Carolina and Florida. They nearly beat a good team in the New Jersey Devils. Solid little trip for them. But, of course, as it's been all season, it wasn't easy. What did you make of this trip for the Islanders?
Well, anytime that you go on the road and play three teams that were in the playoffs last year, come away with 4 points, that's got to be a success just as a top line sort of matter. Obviously, they left at least a point, if not 2, on the table in New Jersey. And obviously, like you said, it wasn't a particularly pretty pair of wins. But, given the way this team has played at certain points this season, I think that it's a really important 2 wins. It's kind of a statement and saying, hey, these guys aren't going to go away, and you can't really, start writing them off in the playoff race yet.
In terms of Julien Gauthier, I know we've talked about him, Ethan, and he hasn't gotten a lot of action at all, but, what have you seen from him over this last 3 or 4 games? I mean, he's played on the 4th line, he's played on the 3rd line, he played on the top line last night, and obviously came through with a big goal.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously the speed with him is where you really want to start, and that's making a big difference for them. As for me, he's done enough to kind of say, okay, he's going to have to stay in the lineup, at least for the time being. I don't really know how you can take him out after a really strong game in Florida the other night. scored his first goal as an Islander. And, I think now you have to start wondering, okay, well, who's going to come out when, obviously Matt Barzal is going to come back in tomorrow night. Is that going to be an Oliver Wahlstrom? Is it going to be a Hudson Fasching? Because it probably can't be a Julien Gauthier with what he's shown.
Ethan, Matt Barzal, he's getting a lot of shots on goal. It sounds like he's going to shatter his shots for a full season here if he keeps going at the rate he is. Do you think that's more just on his game, or how much would you say Bo Horvat's addition to this team is kind of responsible for that? The fact that, Barzal is kind of unleashing his shot and he's getting rewarded for it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously having Bo Horvat next to him doesn't hurt, right? But I do think that Barzal has a lot of responsibility for it. Just in talking to him, he's said to me, I think more than once, that after a few of the early games this season, he thought he wasn't really quite playing his game. He was still adjusting to wing, and he decided that he kind of had to take things more into his hands and demand the puck a little bit more, take more control instead of just letting it come to him like he maybe kind of could at center, where the puck would just naturally find him more. And I think that this is really the result of that sort of aggressive mentality on his part, and you're seeing it really pay off.
Yeah, Ethan, just want to ask you too about Mike Riley, obviously playing in his first couple of games with the Islanders. What really stood out to you from him so far?
Yeah, well, I mean, the Devil game was a little bit hairy, probably understandably given, he had one practice. It's a very quick turnaround, and, he looked a little out of sorts there, not super surprisingly, but, I think you've started to see him maybe get a little bit more comfortable as the games have gone on. I thought the Florida game was probably his best so far, and that makes sense, right? The more experience you have in a system, the better and more comfortable you're going to be. So, I mean, look, obviously it's not an ideal situation for the Islanders on the back end right now. It kind of just feels like, can they survive enough that their goaltending can put them over the top? But, given the circumstance, I think you have to at least give Mike Riley a passing grade so far. I don't know that it's, necessarily an A, but, they've survived, they've gotten through it, and he's been able to help them do that.
And Ethan, we might as well stick on the D for a little bit here. Sam Bolduc, he gets his season high 16 minutes and 15 seconds against Florida last night. Is he starting to improve? Because this is a guy we've been focusing on all season here, where, obviously the fans and the team itself were kind of hoping that he was going to take another step here on this D core, and it's been a little slower than we've expected. Probably a part of the reason outside of the injuries why a guy like Mike Riley gets brought in. What have you seen out of Bolduc on this trip, and is he improving?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you asked that, because I have my notes from last night pulled up right here, and I had it written down, hey, that he was making some good breakout passes. He was looking a little more comfortable, and those are real steps for him. Obviously the next question is, can it actually last? But he looked like somebody at the start of this year who really was not 100% confident in himself, and maybe was still kind of adjusting to the speed of the NHL game. And at least last night, and we don't want to get too far out ahead of ourselves. I thought that wasn't really the case. I thought he was much more comfortable. He made a good first pass. He looked like he knew where he had to be, which are all, really positive steps for a young defenseman to be taking. And the Islanders really need that to sort of hold and improve as opposed to, doing the opposite.
Ethan, with Wahlstrom, after the Carolina game, Lambert called him out, especially due to his not being consistent offensively. And then last night, he gets moved from the top line with Barzal out down to the third line. Did you think last night was more of just Gauthier playing really well, or do you think Wahlstrom still is just not giving Lambert what he needs at this point?
I think it's a little of both, right? Certainly Gauthier kind of, was like we were just talking about, made his case pretty well last night, but at the same time, it's on Wahlstrom to do the same thing. And he, I don't know that it was, a terrible game by him or anything like that. I'm not saying that, but, he maybe wasn't making that case in the same way as Gauthier was. And, as a result of that, I mean, this is an Islanders team that has a lot of options in its bottom six, and you know, guys are going to have, a couple guys are going to have to come out every night, right? And now, assuming that Matt Barzal is feeling better tomorrow night, you probably have to ask the question, or excuse me, on Tuesday night, you probably have to ask the question, okay, well, does Wahlstrom now come out of the lineup? And, whether it's intended as a message to him or it's just, hey, Julien Gauthier was playing really well and you can't really take him out, I'm sure that he will receive it as a message to him, if that makes sense.
We're talking to Ethan Sears, the New York Post, on the line here at Hockey Night New York. Yeah, Ethan, it looks like Wahlstrom just seems to be squandering these opportunities here where everybody around him seems to be picking up their play. I mean, we were talking about it before you came on, too. Holmstrom now, 7 goals. A guy who maybe in the beginning of the season you wondered if he was going to get sent down to Bridgeport just for salary reasons. And now there's no way you can take him out with the way he's scoring goals, the way he's obviously playing on the penalty kill. But speaking of special teams, we were talking about it before you came on as well. Power play, solid, top 10. What's going on there? How did the Islanders turn around their power play?
Yeah, I mean, I think you probably have to start with Noah Dobson and just in general, the confidence that he has, the way he's playing the game, the way he's moving the puck. Last year, I remember thinking, at times, wow, they really kind of need to take him off this top power play. And it took them a long, I think they finally did it in game 6 against Carolina. But, he just didn't quite look like he was he was just struggling out there on the power play. And this year, I mean, it's night and day. I think that they've changed up their entries a little bit. It's not major, but you see some tweaks there. I think there's more options than just kind of, a plain sort of drop pass to Barzal. He has a few more options when he's skating into the zone, which I think has sort of helped them sort out that particular issue. And I think just the confidence, right? Last year they weren't scoring, and when you're not scoring, it spirals. Bo Horvat said to me a week or two ago, there were times where we thought, we would have rather declined the penalty. And I think a lot of people watching probably felt the same way, right? And now they go out there and they feel like they're going to score. They feel like they're going to have a good 2 minutes. Even if they're not going to score, they're holding the puck in the zone, they're passing it well. Confidence feeds into results, right? And I think you're really seeing that.
Yeah, it's amazing what a turnaround both special teams have shown, going north and or south, and just to touch on the power play again. And not only is it performing better as a whole, but it's also because it's happening by committee. You're getting contributions from Lee, Palmieri, and it's not just Barzal and Horvat and Dobson, but obviously, like you said, Dobson's been a huge catalyst for that. How about the play of this team without Adam Pelech? I think everybody was already a little nervous just because of the way this team was playing with him in the lineup and all the blown leads. He ends up going out, and it looks like they're doing all right with him out so far. Just how's the defense look without Pelech in there?
Yeah, I mean, look, obviously the shot attempt numbers haven't been pretty the last 2 games. I don't think anybody would argue otherwise, and there's probably some stuff that they still need to clamp down on, but at the end of the day, they're getting results, right? And that's what matters. And they have the kind of goaltending where, they probably don't want it to be this lopsided. Don't get me wrong. But they can survive in games where they're maybe spending a little bit more time than you would want in the defensive zone, especially when Sorokin and Varlamov are playing well. And I think you've seen both of them really step up in the last handful of games, and that's helped lead to it. And we can talk too about Dobson again and Romanov as well, and the way that both of them have really stepped up, dealt with more and more minutes, dealt with being in situations, Dobson going on the left side for a few games. That's an unfamiliar spot for him, and he's been absolutely adaptable and fine, and just has shown himself to be, able to really do whatever they've needed from him. And that's been huge.
Ethan, if I told you that the Islanders were top 3 in the league in high danger chances for it 5-on-5 play, what would you think of that?
I would actually be a little bit surprised, to be honest with you. But I mean, I guess it kind of speaks to, the fact that the quote unquote issue with this team, right? And it's not the traditional issue with the Islanders, has been defense, right? They've scored goals. The attack has been there. I guess I would be a little bit surprised that it's top 3, but I certainly wouldn't be surprised that it's, whatever, top 10. They've played well in the offensive zone. They've gotten points from the guys they need to get points from. The power play has been good. All of that is kind of clicking well. It's just, can they get enough shot suppression? Can they suppress high danger chances enough to clamp down and win these games and hold these leads? And we saw them do that in Florida, and we saw them. Well, I don't know if I would necessarily say they did it in Carolina with the last second goal, but they came out of it with a win. So, okay.
Yeah, obviously with goaltending, Sorokin should be the clear starter. His stats aren't great, but again, stats won't tell you the whole story. But I guess looking back, even though it's early, how important was it that they kept Varlamov around?
Yeah, I mean, it's that's always been Lou Lamoriello's MO, right? Is you start with goaltending and you build from the back out, and he's done that for decades now, since he's been in the league. I don't think there was ever, unless Semyon Varlamov wanted to go, which he never really seemed to have any inkling of wanting to do. I don't think there was ever much of a chance of him going, because the Islanders were going to put a premium on backup goaltending, right? And they knew that, as important as Ilya Sorokin is to this team, having strong backup is also huge. You don't know when Sorokin might get hurt, or is he gonna just be having a little bit of not even a cold stretch. I don't know if I would even call it that from him earlier in the season, but just a stretch of not quite being the sort of superhuman Ilya Sorokin who we've gotten used to seeing, and you might say, okay, well, we're gonna go to playing the backup every other night for a little bit versus every third or fourth night. And Varlamov has accepted that role without any complaint. He's supported Sorokin all the way, and he's done a great job for them. And he deserves a lot of credit for that. And the Islanders probably deserve a lot of credit for recognizing just how important that was.
Yeah, he's been great pretty much every game he's stepped in, and you probably do need a backup of his caliber if you're going to be giving up around 40 shots on goal every night. But Ethan, the last one I'll leave you with, I was kind of wondering aloud here, just okay, we saw everything that the Islanders did leading up to this week, right? And then they pull out nearly 3 wins against 3 really good teams in the season. So I'm just like, who is this team? What are these Islanders that we're watching? And we talk about all these wild stats where they're towards the top of the league here and top of the league there, bottom of the league there. It's just up, down, left, and right, all over the place. So are you able to put a finger on what sort of season this team is going to have the rest of the way now with this body of work? Or is it going to just kind of be like, we'll see which Islander team shows up on a night-in, night-out basis?
Yeah, I was thinking, and I don't think that there's such a thing as a stat for this, but the deserve to win-o-meter on Money Puck, right? I think the Islanders are probably the team of all 32 of them where you can take that and just chuck it out the window on a nightly basis. Like it matters. They have a tendency of winning games where you look at the shot count and kind of the game flow and say they have no business pulling this out, and they have a tendency of losing games where it's the exact opposite so far. So I guess it's kind of a question of which end of that trend kind of starts breaking in a more logical direction first, right? But yeah, I mean, it's a great question. I mean, right now I see them as, and I think I probably said this when we talked before the season, as at least results wise, I still think that they're going to end up in probably a similar place to last year, right? They'll be fighting for a wild card spot, and will they get it? Well, I don't know, but I kind of think they'll be in it at least until the end. So, hey, if they get in, maybe they'll make some noise, and they certainly have the goaltending to do it.
Yeah, I think it's just been so all over the place. It's hard to put a finger on this team. But Ethan, always a pleasure having you on, man. Thanks a lot for your time tonight. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday.
Of course, you too. Thanks so much.
You got it.
Thanks, bud.
All right, folks, that was Ethan Sears of the New York Post joining us on the line here at Hockey Night in New York. Stefen, how do you feel about taking a break?
To go home or keep going?
No, we got to keep talking Isles, man.
Yeah.
We got questions waiting for us.
Yeah,
we can't go just yet, but maybe just a short little break.
Yeah, let's do it. Why not?
All right, well, before we do, I'm going to tell you all about Main Street Board Game Cafe in Huntington Village on Long Island's North Shore. Games for sale and for open play, food and drink, beer and wine, fun, and friends. Bring the magic of phones down, eyes up, tabletop board games to your family. Our staff will help you find the right game from old favorites to the hottest new releases. We have everything from strategic to easy party games. Get off your screens for a night your family will remember. Looking for meetups to join? Our Magic the Gathering, Dungeons & Dragons, Lorcana, and organized play communities are welcoming for all. We also do parties and corporate events. Located at 307 Main Street in Huntington Village. Go to mainstboardgamecafe.com for more information. Main Street Board Game Cafe. Find your crowd, unplug your game. With that, folks, I want to thank you once again for tuning in to twitch.tv/HockeyNightNY and your favorite podcast providers. We'll be right back.
New York Islanders fans, Sunday night is Hockey Night in New York. Whether you were raised at the barn in Uniondale or born in the stable at Belmont, tune in to Hockey Night in New York. Catch us live from Floored Media in Rockville Center, Sunday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, as we cover all things Islanders at twitch.tv/HockeyNightNY. All episodes are also available on YouTube and all your favorite podcast providers. And for all you social butterflies, you can follow at HockeyNightNY on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram for all the latest updates. Hockey Night in New York, the best night of the week for any Islanders fan.
And now, it's time for What's on Tap, a look ahead at the Islanders' upcoming schedule.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to look ahead at the Islanders' upcoming schedule. And starting on Tuesday, they open up a 6-game homestand. 3 of those will happen this week. Tuesday begins with the San Jose Sharks. They are 6-16-2, currently playing the New York Strangers. Hey, Shoeless Jake, you got an update for us? 3-3, so there you go. The Sharks showing some life after giving up, back-to-back 10-goal losses not too long ago, right?
Yeah, it's such an AHL team, but anyway. They're holding their own against one of the better teams in the league, though. It's crazy. Again, that's why we love this sport, right?
Yes.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I think they got their first road win, actually, not too long ago, just against the Devils.
They killed them.
They hadn't won a game on the road.
And they killed them.
What was the final on that one?
6-3.
Damn.
Yeah.
Okay. So, look, it's the NHL. Things can happen on any given night.
I mean, I remember a couple years ago, the Coyotes would just kill the Maple Leafs. They just beat them every time they played them. It makes no sense. Again,
right.
Greatest sport in the world, greatest league.
So, Sharks on Tuesday. Thursday, another bottom-end team in this league, another basement dweller in the Eastern Conference. That is the Columbus Blue Jackets, sitting at 8-13-4. They are still bad, just like last season. They sat Patrick Laine for a couple games, right? Not too long ago. He's been back in.
He felt most embarrassed he's ever felt in his career.
So he said. I believe he's on like a 3-game point streak, so I guess maybe it woke him up a little bit, but they're still not winning games. They're still not performing very well. These are 2 games to start off this week where you have I don't know if there's a should-o-meter, should you win or not, but those are 2 games the Islanders should win, especially at home, but we know with this Islander team, anything can happen. And then on Saturday, they have a formidable foe coming in, the Los Angeles Kings, who you compare them to their 2010 counterpart, Stanley Cup winning Western Conference Chicago Blackhawks foes. Yeah. They've done a much better job of retooling, getting back into the playoff mix. They got a lot of young guys there, and this is a team who's going to be towards the top of the Western Conference standings and maybe even challenge for a Stanley Cup.
It's so weird how the schedule makers work. The Islanders play 3 teams that were in the playoffs last year. They start this week. I mean, that's why it was so important to end this past week with the wins that they got. Again, we look back, should they have gone 3-0-0 this past week? Yeah, probably, or at least 2-0-1. You know, to not get a point against the Devils is definitely a point.
But heading into the week, how did we have them? Everybody was probably like, "Oh man, they'll be lucky if they go, 1-0-2 or something like that."
Now they really have the chance to build on.
Yeah.
Again, we talked about it last week too. When they snapped the losing streak against Calgary, they can't lose that game now against Philly because then it's just a step backwards. So they had a great team win where this could really be the turning point, locking down a lead. You can't go and get beat up by the Sharks. That can't happen. I mean, it's hockey. It certainly could.
It certainly could.
But then you look at Columbus, and when we're talking about that team, we don't even bring up Johnny Gaudreau. Like, he's just invisible. The guy should. He's one of the better players in the league, where he's star talent. And again, he makes a decision to go to Columbus, which is not a huge market. But
I don't even care that he didn't go to the Islanders.
No, I know.
There's a lot of Islander fans that were upset about it. And apparently, they didn't even talk to him, whether that's true or not. But I just don't get Columbus.
Makes no sense.
I mean, it's like he threw darts at a map and was like, all right, guess I'm going to Columbus. I
think it had to do a lot about I think his wife is a nurse or a doctor. They have a great hospital there, but also he had a couple of teammates that he played, I think, Team USA on that team.
Okay.
But again, even the whole thing with Babcock being brought in, what were you trying to do there?
I don't know.
You started your season on such the wrong foot. And then you thought maybe maybe the plan was hire Babcock, get everyone to turn on Babcock, fire Babcock, light a spark. But that did not work.
They brought in some good defenders over the summer, too. You thought maybe they'd actually bump themselves up.
Lincoln's is a pretty good goalie. It's just this team. I mean, Rowensky's never really healthy. He's been healthy this year, but it's a mess. It's a mess down in Columbus.
It'd be nice. The Islanders are due for a nice little, blowout win.
Yeah.
We've all been kind of, biting our fingernails through all these games, right? Just trying to hold on to a one-goal win or overtime loss, right? It'd be nice to have them go in against, both. That'd be nice, but at least one of these two teams coming up, and let's see a 4-1 win or a 5-2 win.
Yeah, let's see maybe an empty net goal. They haven't done that yet.
Yeah, and they have been notorious for that for years.
But I think was it against Jersey or Carolina, whatever, they had a chance for the empty net. I think it was against Carolina before they blew with 2.5 seconds left to score. I think Horvat missed an empty net, by a couple inches.
Yeah.
They're right there. But I mean,
it's close.
Those put games away.
Yeah.
That would probably obviously seal the deal against the Devils. Even last night, I think Stolarz got pulled with 3 minutes to play. Now there were some icings, he goes back in, but again, it's your chance to really put it away. Don't give that team that second chance late in the third period, and they haven't done that. If they score the empty net goals, they're getting the wins, and maybe other games too.
So that'll do it for what's on tap. You got 2 games that should be gimmies. They won't be. And a game against the LA Kings is going to be tough.
Which they'll kill.
I was just about to say, they'll probably go 1-1 against the Sharks in Columbus, and then they'll somehow manage to beat LA because that's just how the Islanders do it. And just to emphasize how well the Kings are playing, they're 13-4-3
they've been good
heading into today, so that's going to be a tough one. And before we head into Hero of the Week, Stefen, did you want to talk about Simon Holmstrom a little bit?
I did want to talk. He's on his revenge tour here. I mean, there's a lot of talk.
Yes.
He's silencing the haters, and listen. Do people think that he should be a top-line elite player in this league? No. Do I think he's a top 6 player? No. Did he get chances on the top line? Yeah, they had injuries that wanted him to work. He's defensively sound, but right now, I think the third line is such a perfect spot. He's so defensively sound. He clearly has the chemistry with Pajot, which leaks into the penalty kill. Mm-hmm. Guy's got 3 shorthanded goals, which leads the NHL.
Yeah.
But he had 6 goals and 3 assists in 50 games last year. And he has 7 goals and 0 assists this year, which I'll get to in a second, in 22 games. Now, did he miss chances to maybe have 10, 11, 12 goals this year? Yeah. But, again, he's scoring more than he did last year, obviously a much higher rate. And the no assists part, when people say that, it kind of bothers me because assists is such a stat that you need someone to finish. When you're playing on that top line with Horvat and Barzal, it was probably 3 or 4 times where he set up Horvat coming down into the slot or back door that didn't bury on, and people go out on Holmstrom not racking up. How do you not have any assists? That's not Holmstrom's job. Maybe the pass has to be more on the line, but I don't think people should be that worried about the assists because that's as much on maybe the other teammate that's just not bearing his chances. But the fact that the confidence is there, he's scoring the goals, he's not sacrificing defense. I'm not saying he's Zach Parise. I just want to preface this. He's not Zach Parise, but when you lose a guy like Zach Parise, and you have a kid like Simon Holmstrom who's still young, that brings the defensive play that Parise has, is scoring the goals, is providing strong play on the penalty kill, he's filling a hole. And so is a guy like Fashing, and so is a guy like Gauthier. It's a collective unit because the one thing that no one can bring is Parise's energy. You can't mimic that. But a guy like Holmstrom, you're kind of grooming him into be a Parise-esque kind of guy, whereas if the Islanders wanted to bring Parise back right now, sure, they probably would, I guess, if they really wanted to, but it helps when you have guys that you don't make it a necessity that Parise has to be back when a guy like Holmstrom is kind of doing the things that Parise was doing so well.
Yeah, and a buddy of mine said to me a couple of days ago, just talking about Holmstrom and how he's been playing, you were hopeful that he would maybe just be a bottom 6 guy and accept him for what he is, and now all of a sudden you bump him up to maybe he's a middle 6 guy, you know what I mean? He might be able to be a second-line player with the output. I mean, right now he's on pace for over 20 goals, which replaces that or makes up for those goals lost by Zach Parise, so it's great to see. And you mentioned secondary scoring before, but you had back-to-back goals this week from him. You had back-to-back goals from Pierre Engvall. You mentioned Gaudier's goal. So, yeah, look, the team is scoring by committee, and the lead guys are doing it too, getting goals from Horvat. And I feel like we're not even talking about Bo Horvat enough.
I asked Lean about him last night, actually.
Talk about it.
So he's got a 3-game point streak, and I asked him, I said, Bo Horvat's a goal scorer. Maybe he's not scoring at the rate that he was in Vancouver, but I said, what can you say about his playmaking? Mm-hmm. He's got racking up the assists, and he said he's another guy that's just stepping up, making the right play. And he said the more important thing is Horvat's playing that 200-foot game. Again, remember last year when he wasn't scoring, people got on him, but he was deep in the zone winning board battles. He was getting the pucks up, thing like that. And you look at, too, is that overtime winner against Carolina. Sure, did Barzal make that pass to Dobson? Did Dobson make a great defensive play? Horvat opening up for a one-time option for Barzal made the defender there have to back off Dobson.
Right.
And then once he got the pass back, I mean, if Horvat's not there, that's a 2-on-1 that the defenseman could probably play a lot better. But because 100%. Horvat opened up, that's never going to be on a stat sheet. It's just smart hockey IQ play, which changes everything, I think, in terms of how that play was able to work. Because Dobson said, I asked him, I said, were you always going back to Barzal there? And he goes, I had options. I could have gone to Horvat.
Could have shot. That's what I wanted him to do.
He said, I could have shot, could have gone to Horvat. And I just thought Barzal was the right play. But the defenseman, though, when he's seeing that, he has to now be aware that Horvat's there. He can't just go to Barzal. And you saw the slight hesitation, and it's a goal.
It completely hamstrings him. Yeah, absolutely. So, Horvat's been playing great. I feel like, it's kind of cool. Like, he's just kind of doing what everybody expected and hoped that he would do. So it's been quiet on him because there's not much to complain about. He's nearly a point-per-game player. He's putting the points up. He's getting some chemistry there with Barzal. And wouldn't you know, it's some training camp and getting some games with Barzal. He's looking pretty good.
And one more thing about Holmstrom that I don't want to forget. Sure. Again, everyone said he didn't shoot enough, which is he only has 23 shots in 22 games, but he's third amongst NHL forwards with a 30.4 shooting percentage. Okay. Just saying. Maybe there was rebound goals. Obviously, you just tapped them in like last night, but again, we talk about quality over quantity in this league a lot.
A lot of that for the Islanders.
A lot of that. And again, you might say that Holmstrom should have more goals, but he is executing at a pretty high rate.
If you told me he'd have 7 games, 7 goals to this point in the season, I'd be happy. So Holmstrom's looking good. It looks like he's a guy who's going to be belonging on this NHL roster because, as I said, we weren't even sure if he was going to crack the squad going into the season. So that's good stuff. All right, so why don't we go into Hero of the Week? Excellent. When you hear this song, that means it's time for the Hero of the Week, brought to you by the Blue Line Deli and Bagels half-price hero, which this week is The Godfather, featuring Cappy ham, Genoa salami, pepperoni, provolone, lettuce and tomato, oil and vinegar on a hero. So stop into the Huntington Blue Line Deli and Bagels all week to get half off The Godfather. Stefen, we're going to start with you. Who is your hero of the week?
So my hero of the week is Julien Gauthier. Now, this is a guy that he got signed. You thought, okay, he got signed to be a depth forward. That's what it was going to be. He came into this team. You knew speed was a thing. That wasn't the issue. It was burying chances, more like Michael Grabner-esque, where you're going to get all these chances, breakaways, you're just not going to bury. He only gets into 2 games of the first 14. Doesn't get a lot of minutes, but he's played the last 4 games and has seen a spike in minutes in every game. Against Florida, first off, he has probably one of the nicer goals of the year for the Islanders, and it was their first goal, I think, that came right off a face-off play, a design play. And I think
looked like it.
Going back to preseason and training camp, that was the shot that he kept showing off, whether it was in the scrimmages at practice
I remember you mentioning it,
or the in a preseason game, and you're like, this guy gets a lot of, for not being able to shoot. He shoots hard. He shot the puck that produced the rebound for Holmstrom's goal. Also, that back check to lead to that goal. I mean, he brought his A game against Florida. He gets moved up to that top line, gets a huge goal, and that's the game-winning goal. That turned into the game-winning goal. So good for Lambert, by the way, too, to trust his gut there to make that move, because we've seen what happened this year when Lambert trusts his gut. It's usually backfired this year. And this one, again, you got to give credit to Lambert for making the move, but it's all up to Gauthier there to make the most of that opportunity. And Gauthier was, we said it, I didn't get to play a lot. It's awesome. I earned trust from the coach for the back check. I come through in a big moment. That's good for a guy that, again, is trying to crack this roster. And I think now, not that he's the same player as Hudson Fasching, but he's doing a Hudson Fasching-esque type thing. We saw last year. Fasching got called up, pretty much forced Lambert's hand to, I got to stay in this lineup, and Gauthier is doing that right now.
Yeah, and what a rip that was off of the faceoff. That was a beautiful goal. I'd love to see him attempt more shots like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess it creates a little bit of a question mark with guys like Gauthier, Fashing, and Matt Martin, where, who's going to get into the lineup, and maybe you just see a rotation there. Maybe not one guy is just going to, get the call every night. You might just get Lambert waking up in the morning saying, you know what, I feel like Martin should be the guy to sit tonight. I feel like Gauthier should be the guy to sit tonight, which is fine. And maybe his coaching decisions are regressing to the mean a little bit now, right? Where they're starting to pan out a little bit. And I guess you got to take the fire off of his chair a little bit right now, right? Because they get the wins against some good teams. They're in a playoff spot. You can't fire a guy now after all that, right? So it looks like, his stay of execution extends a little bit more, and maybe we'll see if they can pick up after this. But
we talked about Wahlstrom with Ethan, and we've talked about it on the show numerous times, and I keep making the same point that there's too many. Ethan made this point too. There's too many bottom six guys that play a bottom six role much better than Wahlstrom. If he's going to excel in this team, it's got to be in a top six role. And I thought last night, again, after Lane kind of called him out against Carolina, you're playing on the top line. Yeah, there's no Barzal. It's Lee and Horvat, but find a way to get a shot on goal. Like earlier in the game, he crashed the net and didn't shoot it. He tried to pull it to the net and got hit and lost the puck. And it's just, if Wahlstrom is going to get more chances and more minutes, if he has a shooting lane, he's just got to take the shot. That's his bread and butter. He's talked about how much of a sniper he is. He's got to start showing it because, again, a guy like Gauthier, when you have to make those hard decisions, Gauthier is going to win the job over Wahlstrom. Right. And it's tough, again, for how much Wahlstrom had to work to get back after the injury. He's just got to find a way to make the most of his chances because, like Ethan said, there's other guys that are doing that.
Yeah, and look, if they keep winning with a Wahlstrom-less roster, if you will, if they start, if they keep skating Gauthier, Fashing, Martin, whatever it is, and they win games with Wahlstrom out of the lineup, he's going to stay up in the press box because they're going to go with a winning formula. But we might as well get to my hero before we move on. So this guy only played in 2 of the 3 games, but yet he is still my hero anyway. He was sick last night, but look, he had a goal and 2 assists against Jersey, even in a losing effort, but he had a goal and 3 assists versus Carolina. 1 was obviously a huge one. That was the overtime winner. So a guy, 7 points, 2 games, overtime winner. I think I got to give a hero to him. So hero of the week, Matt Barzal, Julien Gauthier. There are your heroes. And now we're going to talk a little bit about our pals at Isles Fix. Islanders Country, get your daily fix of Isles news, highlights, and analysis by subscribing to Isles Fix, the only Monday through Friday Islanders newsletter sent directly to your inbox. Sign up for free or become a paid subscriber for added benefits at islesfix.substack.com. And now I want to know how Ed and Jay are doing behind the gear.
Fantastic.
There you go. Yeah, you said fantabulous to open the show. I was kind of thrown off. I thought you were going to easily go with fantastic.
You're the
fantastic
fantastic
keep you on your toes,
guy,
man.
And you're not fantastic tonight. So
my eyes are like watering right now.
Fantastic guy tonight.
Ed, you're always fantastic.
But yeah, we got more gifts from Suitor Sweets.
Wouldn't you believe it? They're spoiling us at this point.
Look at this. We got custom Hockey Night Christmas tree ornaments.
Ornaments. Yes,
each one for us.
The season.
And not only that, for the whole team, they made us a beautiful New York Islanders logo that we are going to hang up here in the studio.
So we got delicious cookies
notes.
Last week. Now we have beautiful arts and crafts. We have ornaments to put on our trees. I'm a big Christmas guy, so this is huge for me. I'm looking forward to putting these on the tree. So once again, Suitor Sweet Treats, thank you so much for thinking about us in this holiday season. And folks, definitely check them out on Instagram at Suitor Sweet Treats. They deliver anywhere in the country, and you can place an order, get custom cookies for any kind of theme, any kind of event that you're having. So check them out. Wonderful people over there, and thank you once again to Suitor Sweet Treats. And now,
well, what I want to say is, me and my girlfriend moved into an apartment.
Hey,
we have a Christmas tree.
Okay,
so there you go. We just put it up there.
Just make sure it's up before the 25th.
Yeah, we got time, right? What's the date?
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah,
you're
good.
The 3rd, I think, right?
All right. Why don't we do some questions, buddy?
Yeah, let's cue the.
It's time.
Who is
for
this guy, by the way?
Questions Brewing. So go ahead, ask us a question.
All right, Ed, fired up. Questions brewing. What do you got?
All right, we're going to start off Trachia 19, guns blazing tonight. The Islanders have played a bunch of teams with crappy goaltending. Flames, Sens, Devils, Canes, Panthers. Can they continue scoring when they play a decent goalie?
I think it's a fair question.
Yeah.
But, Trottier, why don't you want to be happy?
That's what I was thinking.
It's okay. It's okay. It is the season. But yeah, I guess it's fair. We have noticed that the Islanders aren't playing starting goalies of late. So I guess you have to try to dial back the enthusiasm, or at least just see, how it goes when they actually play some starters, because, you want to see how they stack up against the best guys out there. So is it a reason to kind of wait and see? Yeah, I guess so. But look, they're getting wins. And look, we all joke about here on the show, whenever the Islanders play a backup, they get crushed anyway, right?
Yeah.
They lose all those games. So, damned if you do, damned if you don't, I guess.
Well,
Yeah.
I think the test will be Saturday against the Kings if Cam Talbot's in goal, because he's 10-4-1 with a 2.02 goals against average, 928 save percentage. He's been incredible. Him and Jonathan Quick are probably the best storylines in terms of goaltending right now. We thought Quick's career was over.
Yeah.
I think he's 1.99 goals against average this year. Cam Talbot was terrible last year, and he's really, these guys that are over 35 years old. So, yeah, but another thing too with the goaltending, crappy goaltending, whatever, is the Islanders are also helping themselves against they're playing well against those backup goalies and exposing them a little bit. It's not that the other teams are saying, you know what, our goalie stinks. Like, they're earning their goals at times. And even against the Carolina Hurricanes, Kochetkov wasn't great, but when the Islanders had chances to score, they found a way to score. That's just, again, that's part of the league. Is a backup goalie, like you said, could shut anyone out. They're in the NHL. It's not like they're playing ECHL goalies. These are guys that have won in this league before. Kochetkov had absolutely dominated the Islanders, by the way, in his career in a couple of starts. So it's not the case of just, here, take our scrub. Like Stolarz, too. They didn't play Bobrovsky last night, but Stolarz was playing very well this year, like very well. And they found a way to expose his weaknesses. So you got to give some credit to the Islanders there. But, hey, if those teams are going to do that, those are 2 points anyway. It doesn't matter.
Sure. Take them where you can get them.
So this next question is a tandem question between two of our viewers. Cool. One being Mr. Tom Boyle, 13, and first-time chatter, the Filtiarn, 13. So Tom starts by asking, do you see Beauvillier returning this season? And the Filtiarn follows up, could Eberle make a return?
We all like our former Islanders, don't we?
We all do.
No to Beauvillier. I would say no chance. And I would probably say slim to none with Eberle also. Is he a free agent this
summer?
He
is a UFA, yes.
That makes...
So is Beauvillier.
That's right, they both are. I don't see it. I could see it more with Eberle.
So I disagree, but keep going.
But, maybe you're taking the Barzal's best friend angle.
100. You want to keep clients happy, right? Beauvillier had a chance.
Yes.
Beauvillier and Barzal are like brothers. And when I was in Vancouver before Billy got traded to Chicago, I spoke with both of them. First off, I've never seen Barzal as happy as he was to talk about a human being. It was like literally twins that were separated. And we talked about the trade and how much Beauvillier said Barzal made it harder on him, because he was like not ignoring it, but like he just texted him and said like good luck. He couldn't talk about it. It was like really sad. And so when they got to see each other, they said they hung out at Beauvillier's house for an hour, just laughing, telling stories.
Yeah.
Again, not at 4.15 million, but if Beauvillier wanted to take a 2-year deal at $1 million or cheaper just to come back here, keep your clients happy. Barzal's here long term. If he wants to come back he's going to have to earn it for sure. But if they could bring him in on a short-term deal at a very low cap hit, especially with the cap going up, maybe Villiers figures something out in Chicago. Maybe you bring him back. But I think just if they have the chance to do it, they have the cap space and they want an extra depth forward, it can't hurt.
Okay, so you're opening the door a little bit there. We got to see what happens the rest of the season, because playing on Bedard's team, we might see
on his line.
That's what I'm saying. You
Once
play
he
with
gets
that guy,
approved to get through
and
the
if the numbers start going up, then he'll earn himself a contract and he'll price himself out of the Islanders, because they can't pay Anthony Beauvillier big numbers to come back. So it's a nice thought. I don't think either one of them are coming back.
Probably not.
But maybe there's a small ray of hope for either one.
Yeah. All right. Well, next up from MJ Beckman, does Lane teach defense different from Barry? Trotz's teams get outshot, but from perimeter. These guys get blitzed from the faceoff circle in.
I think a lot of it has to do with Lambert's willingness to get them to play more offensively. We saw it last year, which exposed the defense.
Yeah.
They've tried this year, but the structure's just been so out of sorts that you're allowing shots from everywhere. I don't think it's really on Lambert. Again, you lose players like Pelech. That's going to destroy your structure, no matter what you thought Pelech was doing.
Before he went
down. But yeah, it was bad.
Yeah.
And I just think, I don't know what it is. Again, early in games, too, the structure was a little better. It's the third period is where their structure gets absolutely destroyed. It's a great question. I just think with Trotz, I don't know if he just held them to be more accountable with those smaller details. But with Lane, it just seems like they threw that out the window. I don't really know why.
Yeah, and it probably has something to do with the fact that they are scoring more goals early because I guess
that is true too.
Right? I mean, they're on the attack more, they're opening themselves up more, but it's also opening themselves on the defensive end too. I guess my issue with it is just why haven't they been able to clamp it down after they get these leads? Like, fine, you want to play a little more wheel and deal in the first half of the game, the first 2 periods of the game to try to get some goals on the board, which they were hands down successful at doing. I mean, we've seen, they've seen the numbers of how many games they've come out and gotten a lead, scored the first goal, all that good stuff. But the problem is, after they get there, they haven't been able to solve, keeping the goals against down. And I think there probably is something to be said, between the way Lambert's coaching compared to Trotz. I mean, I don't know if he's trying to go back to Barry Trotz clamp it down hockey or if he's still trying to keep things open a little bit. But either way, they're not getting it done. And I think there's something to be said too about the type of chances as well. It seemed because we were a little more nonchalant in the Barry Trotz days when the shot totals against were because they were perimeter. They were coming from the outside. They were getting gobbled up by Sorokin, gobbled up by Varlamov. No rebound. Leonard, whomever, right? Grice. But I think now you're kind of sweating a little bit more. You're getting some tough dangerous chances. You're getting a lot of highlight reel saves from Sorokin, because he's being left exposed, and thank goodness he's back there. So yeah, I think there might be a little bit of a difference. I think I noticed what you're talking about, and hopefully it doesn't kill them.
You made a great point, and it's so true. With Barry Trotz's teams, they were not scoring 3, 4, 5 goals a game. So the only way they were going to win is they kept it close.
Yeah.
And this is now, I'm not saying this is the mindset, but you bring up an excellent point, and maybe it is. It's like, why? Well, maybe instead of playing lock it down defense, go for that next goal because we know we have the ability to do that. And I think, again, great point there. I think that's the difference. Barry's team did not score over 3 goals a game. They didn't have the ability to just, let's go add another one. We have to clamp it down to win. This group does, and they've showed it every game, have the potential to get that second, third, fourth goal and make separation. So I think the push for offense, because they have the ability to do that, is making the defense worse.
Ed, what do you got?
Next up from NZAB09. Despite the record, do you see any improvement in the overall team play?
I think in terms of recently, they're getting the wins. They're getting the points. I think against Florida, too, is just they found a way to hold the lead. I think that's the biggest thing, again, is they've blown, even in the wins, too, against Carolina, they blow the lead late and win. So that's not a game where you go, oh, they figured it out. I think for Florida, it was like we got the goals. We got the timely goals. We did allow a goal in the third, but we found a way to hold on. That's the win where now you have to see them do that this week against the Sharks. Get a lead early, win the game. Against Columbus, get a lead early, win. Then after 3 games, if they do that, and we talk about the trending all the time, is once the group does that consistently, that's when you're going to say, okay, they're back. They proved to themselves they could do it. But if they go into the Sharks game and blow a lead again and win the game, like that doesn't tell me that they're improving in any facet. That just means they beat a bad team.
Yeah, I am not comfortable saying the Isles are back.
Yeah.
In any respect, because you still saw a lot of the bad habits happening, and they just happened to get wins this time.
Florida was good.
Florida was probably the best sign yet, but literally that's one game. It's the most recent game. Let's see them build off of it. But everybody was asking about the Islanders' identity. What's their identity? Where's it gone? And the truth is, and it kind of still is, their identity has been getting out to leads and blowing them.
Yeah.
Like that's been their identity this season, and they got to get away from that. So, no, I need to see more out of this team before I'm ready. And Stefen, do we have time for one more?
Yeah, go for it.
All right, let's do one more.
Well, this one wasn't questions brewing format, but I wanted to highlight this.
That's okay.
So DTMR said last week, I asked when JG would score. Now, when will he get next 5 goals?
Only what? Sorry.
When will he get his next 5 goals? Now that he's got his first one, I think it's going to take at least 20 more games.
I think if he could just focus on
15 more games,
playing defense with that line, the way it's constructed. Again, we have to see who he's playing with too. Is Gauthier went from the third line to the first line. Let's see if Barzal's healthy, a thing like that. But for Pajot, I think it did matter getting that first goal because he said to us, he goes, I'm not going to score 50 in this league, but I know I have the ability to score. So, Again, though, the good news is that other people, they don't have to rely on Pajot for depth scoring. Like, they won the game last time without him. Right. He had other guys step up, so I think that matters more.
Yeah, MJ Beckman, I just realized, said game 82, NZAB. So
hopefully it's a little sooner than that, but we'll see. But, yeah, we got to see more out of this team just overall because, it's been difficult to just – kind of understand what this team is yet. You know what I mean? It's great that they're in a playoff spot. It's great that they collected points early on in the season. It's great that they're finally beating some good teams. But the manner in which they're doing it, just like, how do you be comfortable?
They have a lot to prove.
Yeah.
They have a lot. Again, the good news, which we talk about all the time, and you started the show with it, is for as bad as they've looked in a lot of games for blowing the leads, they're in a playoff spot.
They're in a playoff spot. We'll see where it looks next week, but they're in a playoff spot for now. That's going to do it for Questions Brewing. We'll try to get to your questions next week if we missed them this week. And Ed, it is time to wrap this thing up. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you all for tuning in to twitch.tv/HockeyNightNY and your favorite podcast providers. Also want to send out a big thanks to Ethan Sears of the New York Post for joining us. Always a great spot with him. And also a big thanks to our sponsors, starting with Blue Line Deli and Bagels, located at 719 West Jericho Turnpike in Huntington and 217 Carlton Avenue in East Islip. Check them out at BlueLineDeli.com. Also a big thanks to Main Street Board Game Cafe, located at 307 Main Street in Huntington Village. Find out how to unplug your game at MainSTBoardGameCafe.com. Also a big thanks to Razor and Kniff, attorneys at law. Nobody likes going to court, but hey, if you have to, Razor and Kniff are ready to fight for you. Call 516-742-7600 for a free consultation. And also a big thanks to Floored Media and Jay here. How is Jay? What kind of mood is Jay in tonight? Is he okay? He's smiling now. He's got
less grumpy than usual.
Okay, that's good.
Definitely.
A little less grumpy. Maybe because it's earlier, he's not sleepy yet. It's not his bedtime.
That might be it.
But yes, big thanks to Jay and Floored Media. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, remember to rate, review, subscribe, tell your friends. Stefen, where can we find you on the internet and social media?
Yes, you can find me on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it at STEFEN_ROSNER, the Hockey News Islanders site, and NHL.com.
That's right. You can follow myself on Twitter at Shoney Hockey. You can follow the show on all social media platforms at Hockey Night NY. Check out the website, HockeyNightNY.com. For Stefen, for Ed, for Jay, for Shoeless Jake, I'm Sean Cuthbert. We've been Hockey Night New York. We will see you next week.